Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. It's very good to meet you.
Thank you.
I just saw the movie. Congratulations. It was fantastic. But I want to know, obviously, George Foreman, you've been in the media's eye for so long, but now your life is in a movie. What is it like to see your story told on the silver screen?
It's strange though when you start seeing your story on the movies and on
Yeah.
the silver screen. You start thinking, "Boy, is that the end of me? Maybe I'm not alive. I'm not needed anymore." So it's not like it's a great, wonderful thing because it's scary. Most people who give great stories about their life are already passed on.
But your story is one of a second and a third and a fourth act. So I understand what you're saying, but I think your story is so different than that, in that you've been able to reinvent yourself. And I think a large part of that is because of your faith, which shines through in the movie. So tell us a little bit about that and how your faith conversion, which was quite an intense conversion, as we see in the movie and as I've read elsewhere, how that really colored some of your shaping of your life.
Well, my first time around, I was just ambitious. I
Yeah.
wanted to be top heavyweight champ of the world, knockout, rich and famous, and that whole thing. And then all of a sudden, I hit that rock. I found out there was more to life. I found God. Now I'm on the dressing room table screaming, Jesus Christ is coming alive in me. Things I didn't know exist. So took 10 years off of boxing. Didn't do anything but preach the gospel. So the second time around, I had more than what I had, the big fist, the knockout punch. I had faith in God that I was doing the right thing, that he would help me if I continued doing the right things.
Yeah, but something that's interesting is even in the first act, the first part of your professional career, you talked about your mind and your heart being the determining factor in boxing, and obviously you carried that into the second act. But where did that come from? Where did that mindset and philosophy come from?
Where I learned to fight the first time around. I was hit, and they taught me how to box real good in the Job Corps. And a guy hit me in the Golden Gloves, and I remember laying on the canvas, jumping up, thinking, "I gotta fight. I gotta fight. All this stuff about boxing and jabbing and bobbing and weaving, I gotta put that down and just purely fight." And I added that to my life. I was gonna fight for everything that would come to me. I was gonna fight. Then when I found faith in God, boy, that really encouraged me to fight, to make certain I hang on to the love I
Yeah.
have for people.
So, what did you carry from boxing into faith? How has that helped? What lessons did you learn in boxing that have really, bolstered your faith in Christ?
And that I learned to fight in boxing, not just box, but to fight, to hold on to what you have. And so I'd found religion, and I realized I was going to have to fight to be in church on time. And sometimes I was merely going to be the best mopper around and the sweeper of the floors. It was a fight to keep this thing going, that I would tell this story for as long as I live and not let it get away from me.
You're an Olympic athlete, a world class boxer. Some people might think, why become a community leader and a pastor? You could have done something much more glamorous, much bigger, but you chose to go into service to the Lord. What inspired that?
I didn't believe there was a God. I mean, I fought to be heavyweight champ of the world. And then once I found for a fact there was God, Jesus Christ was alive, I was going to fight to keep that alive to make certain everybody I met knew about it. And I didn't find anything else worthy of my time other than doing the work of an evangelist.
And something that I think is so incredible about your story is that it's vulnerable, right? You're tenacious, but you're also true to the fact that just because you become a believer and you have a powerful conversion to faith doesn't mean everything works out really, really simply and there are no more problems. There are still difficulties and there's still struggles that you've worked through. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
And that's what I learned, the fight. I learned I didn't realize the fight would be more important once I found God because you've been the best person you can be, and yet there's trouble. You can be the best person you can be and all the Bible reading in the world, still got to go to hospitals.
Yeah.
All the things that would happen to me, to happen to anyone else, would continue to happen. But the silver lining was I had faith in God. He
Yeah.
would help me no matter what.
And something that I think is fascinating that I didn't realize until watching the movie is that you and Muhammad Ali actually became very good friends from completely different lifestyles, different belief systems, and you talked every day until the end of his life. Tell us a little bit about that friendship and what it meant to you.
Well, it was great because I was in a dressing room. In the Job Corps. And there I am listening to Cassius Clay then fight Floyd Patterson, and everybody in the room saying, George, you think you're so tough, why don't you become a boxer? So Muhammad Ali became a presence in my life early on. I was about 16 years old. And then to meet him was thrilling. Then later on, I found out being a friend with him was even more thrilling. What a great friend. We became, even his children and me became great friends, all great friends.
You know, your mom's story of just a woman of incredible faith, raising y'all and going through the ups and downs of life as a parent and seeing your children struggle. And then ultimately when you came to Christ and you came to share the faith that your mother had, how did y'all's relationship change or maybe become deeper?
Yeah, deeper. My mom was in the hospital confined for a long time. And one of the social workers had come by to visit me, and they said, George, your mom's is recovering real good. She said there's only one thing she's worried about. I said, what is that? She said, you. Find my son, George Foreman, and make sure he stays out of trouble. That was the only thing that she was concerned about. So I go into boxing, and then listening to this lady praying and all the time. I said, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to become rich. That'll stop all that praying. She never stopped praying. Then I became a minister at the Church of the Lord Jesus Christ. And she told me once, she said, first, I didn't go for it. I didn't believe in it. She said, but now you're my pastor. I believe in you.
Wow.
That is the most touching thing. She said, you're my preacher.
Wow.
That was the most touching thing that ever happened to me. She believed in me and believed in what I was doing.
You know, with people going to the theaters to see this movie, to see your story from beginning to where it ended, as far as boxing goes, what are you hoping people walk out of the theater thinking about?
Well, I had a vision years ago. I'm sitting down in one of my aunt's house, and I saw this book open. It said, evangelistic, and it just was written all over that book. And my whole life has been dedicated to evangelistic, so to speak. And all I want people to understand is that George Foreman is a boxing story. So many boxers, so many great athletes. But to get the point of the matter is, I found God and I found out about Jesus Christ. I don't want that lost. And I think if they go to the movie, they'll find out there's more to me than what meets the eye.
Yeah.
God is in there.
You know, were there any scenes in the movie that were particularly difficult or moving maybe to relive?
One part in the movie, my mom was moving around. They moved everything so fast. And we moved into one of the houses we lived in. And there was this rusty refrigerator, rusty stove. And it was true. We'd always move into these houses for rent. There'd always be a refrigerator, icebox we used to call them.
Yeah.
And they were always used, and most of the time they didn't work. That touched me, and I cried a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine it is difficult to see some of those difficult moments relived, but also I'm sure incredible to see some of the highlights of your life replayed and to recast those in a new light. So when you're looking back, before you were converted, before you became a believer and you're seeing yourself fighting, what was that like now knowing what your mindset is as a believer?
Boxing was so quick in my life. And I had February of 67, I had my first boxing match. October of 68, I was an Olympic gold medalist. Then, within 3 years, I was heavyweight champ of the world. Everything was so brief.
Yeah.
So I looked at those moments in the movie and saw the briefness of them.
Yeah.
Then the second time around, it was all about making certain I keep my youth center open.
Yeah.
And the work was to keep that place open. The boxing matches was coincidental, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I remember being hit in the eye a few times.
And it probably didn't. It wasn't the best feeling in the world, right, at the time.
No,
So to relive it was was difficult.
Guys hitting you. You
Yeah.
never forget that. When I saw those boxing scenes, sometimes I remember, oh, that time I was really hurt.
Right. Yeah. So the community center is your legacy living on. Tell us a little bit about why that is so important to your legacy.
Well, the George Foreman Youth Center was very important to me because I didn't get a chance for people to reach out for me early on in life, and I got into a lot of trouble. So I started that youth center so kids who were out stealing hubcaps and everything, they could stop by the gym. And I didn't care about boxing or not, just have a place for them to hang out.
Yeah.
And that's what the youth center was all about, the George Foreman Youth Center. My brother Roy and I had that in mind.
And meeting people where they're at, which was a pivotal point in your ministry, is so important. But I think it's difficult as believers sometimes to remember where we were when we first met the Lord. So how has that changed over the years and learning to just meet people in whatever season they're at in life?
Most important thing is that as one generation comes after another, all of the kids I would see at the youth center. Once I was at a service station, one of these full service stations. The guy was changing my oil, and he said, "Wait just a moment before you go." And he came back and gave me $5. I said, "What is this for?" He said, "When I came to your youth center, I didn't have money for hand wraps, and I wouldn't get. And I didn't want. I said, go ask your mom, your dad." He said, "They don't have it." I said, "I'm gonna give you $5 this time, but when you get it, I want you to pay me back." And he was a grown man, and then he asked me to sign an autograph for his child.
Wow.
So that's what I meant. The youth center was about that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's incredible. So my last question for you is, you said you want people to be inspired and really to encounter the Lord maybe in a way that they haven't before, and that's something that I appreciated about the movies, that it's not incredibly preachy, but it still is telling a true story of faith. So if somebody's going into the theater and they're very discouraged and they just don't know where to turn, where do you want them to turn when they leave?
The most important thing is that to realize in that movie that it doesn't matter how far down you are, you can still come all the way up. And it doesn't matter if you fall 2 or 3 times more, you can still come back all the way up again if you just don't give up on yourself.
Well, George Foreman, thank you so much for taking a few minutes, and congratulations on the movie.
Thank you.